was really up there looking at them town halls with Trump and Biden. That's what he was really doing. But let me ask Reverend Vandy Simmons to come on down. Vandy Simmons is an absolutely outstanding pastor. Oh gosh, there's folk from Antioch are carrying on this morning. But he's an outstanding pastor, and I've had a chance to watch him since I've been in the district. He's a good shepherd that cares for his sheep. He's involved in the life of his community, and Antioch is doing great things under his leadership. And there were a number of people who could have gotten this, but we want to present this to the Reverend Vandy Simmons, the pastor of Antioch Church, and Stone Mountain is the 6th Episcopal District Pastor of the Year for 2020. All right. Somebody bring Reverend Simmons a microphone. I don't want him to have to hoop this morning. I know he can. I want to know what Cord had for breakfast.
Thank you, Bishop Jackson. And as I always do, I first of all want to thank you for your godly judgment and sending us to Antioch A.M.E. Church. And I'm honored and humbled to receive this award. And I receive it on behalf of all the hardworking pastors who love the Lord and love their people. And next year somebody else will represent the rest of us. But I want to thank you, and I want to thank also the good people of Antioch A.M.E. Church. As I tell them, and I just don't tell them lightly, that they make me better. All the people that work so hard, they can't be here, but I'm receiving this award on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Brothers and sisters, during this morning session, want to kind of talk about three things, and I don't want this to be me doing all the talking. I want us to have a discussion. One, about the church in the midst of the pandemic. And then we want to say a word about pastoring during and after a pandemic. And then want to say a word about reopening our churches. This pandemic really, because of incompetence, just came upon us. The word is that the national government, this administration, knew in January that this pandemic was coming and said nothing. And then we saw in January and February, we saw this pandemic ravaging through Europe. We saw it in China, then we saw it in Japan, then we saw it in Italy, then we saw it in Great Britain, and then we had one case in the United States. We had one case. And who do I want to give the credit to this morning? I'm going to leave Ms. Brown alone this morning. Reverend Simone Jones, how you feeling? All right. So then Reverend Simone Jones, president, said we only got one case in the United States and it's going to disappear. It's going to be gone. Then it went from 1 to about 5. And again, he said, we got this under control. In about a week, they'll be gone. And the next thing you know, I will never forget, I was in the Southwest Conference. And the thing just swept over the country. And at the Southwest Conference, I told everybody, I'm not going to shake any hands, I'm not going to hug anybody, we were just going to wave. And then after the Southwest Conference, we shut down all the rest of our conferences. And then I sent out a communication that we were going to stop having church until further notice. And to be frank with you, when I sent out that notice, I thought it might be maybe a few weeks, maybe a month. We are now in the 32nd week that we have been out of our churches. And this pandemic has affected every single church. There is not a church which has not been impacted by this pandemic. And so one of the questions we need to raise is the church in the midst of this pandemic. And I think connectionally, and I shouldn't say connect because it's been more than just the A.M.Es, but I think for faith bodies all over this country, we have been so totally unprepared for this pandemic that really almost every church and every pastor, you were left on your own to fend for yourself. And some of us, including this bishop, now there's my friend. Now you got on the right suit today. Got on my blue suit. How you doing? That's my mayor. All right. Including this bishop, wanted to act like I knew what I was doing. But I'll tell you all the truth, I didn't have the foggiest idea. And I think a lot of pastors, we wanted to act like we knew what we were doing. But we didn't know. The presiding elders, they didn't know. So this has been a learning process. But several things this pandemic has done or it's forced upon us. And let me just simply say, it's not over. It is not over by a long shot. And so one of the things I want to discuss with us this morning is this the circumstance of the church in the midst of this pandemic. Several things this pandemic has done on its own without asking our permission or getting our input. first thing this pandemic has done, and some of you heard me say it before, it has caused us to bury a lot of things that don't need to be resurrected. And if you don't make some adjustments, your church may be one of those 100,000 that the Pew Research Center says will close as a result of this pandemic. For example, there are a lot of pastors not in a rush to reopen our churches. And the reason we're not in a rush to reopen our churches is because a whole lot of us have more people viewing our service online than we did when our churches were open. So we're not in no rush to reopen because we're afraid we're going to lose them folk. The fact of the matter is some of our churches are taking in more money since we've been online than we did when our churches were open. And so the pandemic has taught us several things. The first thing it has taught us is that people will look at a screen. That's the first thing it's taught us. People will look at a screen. And the reason that's important, and I think about it often, is that for the last 2 years at every Episcopal District meeting and in every annual conference, I've been talking about the importance of social media, the importance of technology. And I had absolutely no idea how awesome that lesson was going to be taught. Because in the midst of this pandemic, if your church is not using technology, you are absolutely obsolete. A few weeks ago, I'm not going to call the name of the church, a few weeks ago, I was scheduled to preach on Sunday morning at a church in the Atlanta, North Georgia conference. And one time I thought it was going to be a live service. I was going to go there to preach. Then I thought it was going to be virtual. Next thing I know, the office got a call, I think on Thursday, and said to me, this is the phone number to call in for the service. We had church on the telephone. That's the first time I ever preached on telephone. I want to thank the members of the church who were on the phone because they still said amen and all that kind of stuff, but it was hard getting used to preaching on. Any other pastor in here preached on telephone before? Oh, a lot of y'all. Does that mean where you are does not have a video or streaming? You got both of them? Why are you preaching on the phone? Oh, okay. Well, let me say this. For this church, it was nobody on the screen. It was all telephone. Nothing but the telephone. So anyway, my point is technology is critical. The other thing which has happened is during this pandemic, every Sunday, I want to send my tithes to a church. And particularly some of our smaller churches. And so they did not have in place a way that you could give online. So I ended up putting it in the mail, but I'm thinking about all the people who might want to give to these churches, but you're not set to give online. Let me ask you this. All those here who have at your church, all the pastors here, where you pastor, you're able to give online, raise your hand. I did not want to ask those who don't, because that wouldn't be fair. All right. Yes. Yes. Let me ask you this. When you say they can't use or they don't want to use,
We've still survived with them mailing in the tithes, and I mail mine in also every week. People who belong, they drop it off at somebody's house, and they go make the deposit.
what about somebody who doesn't belong to the church but wants to give?
Well, that person, there are some that do that because they were big on visiting back and forth to churches.
Let me ask you this.
They mail it.
Okay, let me ask you this. I presume when you say it's a hard learning curve, you mean in terms of the congregation being made up of seniors?
Yes.
Let me ask you this, and I'm keep trying to make an adjustment on this because, and I want y'all to know it's hard for me to do this, to realize I'm a senior citizen. It's hard. No, it really is. I mean, it really is. Matter of fact, show you how bad it was. I was telling somebody, I said, yeah, man, I turned 65. And my son, who was really just getting arrogant, he said, Daddy, you're 66. And he was right. But so it's an adjustment. All of you in here under 65, raise your hand. Now, some of y'all trying to fool me. Elder Bass, you my age. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain. Yes, Reverend Wicker? Dr. Wicker?
When Reverend Chambliss was talking about learning curve, I had a member who, we have prayer service and on Zoom, on calling posts, and church school on Zoom. But this particular member was unable to use even the telephone to get through. I went to her house, showed her what to do, and she still has not been able to do it. She is one of those that's in her 80s and that kind of thing. But it breaks my heart because she was a good church school attendant when we were in the church. So, and we're back in the church now too, by the way.
Yeah, and Dr. Wicker, you bring up the point, and also, Reverend Chambers, you bring up the point that I'm really trying to get at, and I didn't want to say it, but I want to thank y'all because you've helped me to say it. One of the great challenges facing the church in the midst of this pandemic is that the average age of our congregations are 67. And so if our congregations are not able to learn or adjust to the environment that we live in, we're going to be in great danger. That's what they mean when they say there are going to be 100,000 churches across the country that are going to close. And so one of the challenges I was going to bring up on pastoring in the pandemic, but one of the challenges we have is we are desperately going to have to find a way, even with senior congregations, to get our people into some technology. And I'll be honest with you, I'm fortunate. I'm technologically illiterate. But my 15-year-old son, he's a whiz on this technology stuff. So if I need something done, I don't know how to do it, I say, Chef, come here. Now, on the one hand, I would never tell him, but I feel absolutely pitiful that I'm the boy's daddy and can't do nothing. And he goes through this stuff like ain't nothing to it. I bought a brand new printer at the house. And I kept trying to scan something. Ms. Brown laughing anyway. Because whenever I had needed something to go out on letter, because I typed the letter at home, I email it to Ms. Brown so she can scan it and put it on the letterhead because I don't know how. 11 o'clock at night, I send her an email, put this on letterhead, and send it out. And so when I brought this new printer, I said, I'm going to learn how to scan. And I have my wife's nephew also goes to Morehouse, was there, so I didn't want to look like I was illiterate to Seth, so I had the nephew show me how to scan. And I thought I had that bad boy down. And so the thing went through the printer, and then it came to the computer, and then you hit something and it's supposed to whatever. Well, I did all that. Ain't nothing worked right. So finally I just got mad. And I called Seth, said, Seth, come here. Show me how to scan this thing. And he said, okay. And he did it. And I said, okay, thank you. So he left my study. I said, I'm gonna do this. I tried to do it again. That sucker still didn't come out right. So I was hot all over again. And that's when it said to me that it's not going to be easy for those of us with primarily senior congregations to get our people into this technology, which is absolutely going to be necessary. So I'm proud to report now that I know how to scan. All right? It
Bishop.
took about 20 times, but I got it now. And so what I'm saying is it's going to take a lot of patience because we seniors, we're not going to get it quickly. Elder Bass.
I did a Zoom Sunday school convention, and about 30 minutes after we started, we was all just having a good time and everything, and somebody put a sex tape on.
Say what?
Yes, sir. And Bishop, I hate to say it, but I think I know who did it. I just can't prove it. No, I'm serious. I think I know who did it. Because of the timing and because of the scheme, it was a disgruntled person. But anyway, so I had everybody to turn off everything, and then I had the administrative assistant to send out a conference call, ID and password, and we had to finish the Sunday school convention that day in conference call. But it was still good and everything, but I just want to, and then in Columbus, Georgia, Muskogee County, they have a lot of problems with that in the Zooming for the kids. People are putting sex tapes on while these kids are doing virtual school and everything. So I just want to add to all of you, you need to be careful and tell your folks when the elders send out the Zoom information, don't be sharing it with everybody because everybody is not a Christian and don't care about the church. But that did happen to us in June, the first weekend. Thank you, Bishop.
All right.
Bishop. Bishop Jackson.
Somebody, who was that? Somebody
That
was.
was over here. I'm over here, Bishop.
Oh, I'm sorry, Reverend McMichael. You're right in front of me. See, I was senior citizens.
Good morning. To the concerns about seniors, I have an 88-year-old member who is faithful on those conference calls, use the prayer line, masters it, because that's what they've always done. And I told her that I feel like she would do better and feel better, less disconnected if she joined us on Zoom, which was immediately intimidating. But what I did was when I send out the Zoom invitations, I delete everything except exactly what she needs to see, because all that other information is very distracting and confusing. And so I took everything out and just gave her her passcode or access code, and I gave her step 1, step 2, step 3. Well, she's now on Zoom because now she feels connected. After she mastered it for several times, I said, now will you take this information and teach Sister so-and-so, who is also in her age group. She began to teach the other seniors because she had the patience and the time to walk through each one. And there's only one who is not on who says, I can't make long distance phone calls. But the rest of them are all now, either they're on Zoom video or on Zoom by telephone. But they're feeling more connected because they were so disconnected, they were becoming more and more despondent. And I was concerned about depression. And so by them being on Zoom, they can talk with one another and share with one another and laugh with one another. And so that has made the difference. So they can learn, because Zoom is no different by using your phone than it is using the conference call line. So that's what I've done with them, and it's made a big difference.
I can see, because what's happening, you all are bringing up the thing I want to push it, with most of our congregations being senior citizens, we're going to have to find a way to help usher us into this technological age. And a couple of things. One, Reverend McMichael, you just put in my mind, if there are seniors in a congregation who know how to use this technology, they are probably the best ones to teach other seniors. So those who have, I would strongly suggest we do that. Second thing I was going to suggest, one of the things we could do with millennials, if we have them in our congregation, is use them to help teach our seniors how to use this technology. And it's not only for the church, but in the midst of this virus, when you are not supposed to be going all around and all that kind of stuff, it would be wonderful for them to be able to communicate with each other. The other thing, it might be good if it's a class leader. The class leader a lot of our class leaders are seniors, but those who are technologically astute to teach. What this virus has done is made the matter of teaching, particularly our seniors, an absolute necessity. An absolute necessity. This pandemic is really, the theme for this meeting is the now normal. And I told somebody the other day, they said, Bishop, didn't you mean the new normal? No, I mean the now normal, because what we are facing is now. And it's going to be now for a long time. And let me say to you, this pandemic is going to be with us at least a couple more years. That's the reality we have to face. It's going to be with us for a couple more years, and that means this is going to become the norm. For example, as much as we may have, maybe hard for us getting adjusted to using a mask, the day is going to come when putting on the mask is going to be routine. Reverend Alexander?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Bishop. At First A.M.E. Church in Atlanta, we only used the telephone up until Father's Day when we went back into the church. And because of the structure of the building was built in the late 50s, the bricks on the outside and the stone on the inside prohibit us from getting a good signal visibly. So we have stayed up until this last couple of weeks just preaching on the telephone in the sanctuary. So the congregation really worships with us by the telephone. And the 7 or 8 who come to the building are the 7 or 8 that we preach to visibly, while the rest of the congregation, most of whom are seniors, I'm born a month after you, Bishop, to the day, worship in the sanctuary via the telephone. So now, thanks be to God for a good helpmate. My wife is now helping us to get a better signal, and now we can get the we plan to be outside for the first time since the pandemic this coming Sunday for Social Action Sunday, and we'll be on Facebook Live. But we'll also keep the telephone open. That because my associate ministers haven't come back, they pray over the telephone and read the scripture over the telephone. So the telephone is our means of communication. And we put scripture to that. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So even when we can't see, faith is what subsidizes our worship, even in our homes.
All right. Elder Smith.
Yes, sir, Bishop. I wanted to revisit the idea about giving in the church. I told all of the pastors on my district that if they would set up a means of giving other than bringing it to the church, I would send my tithes to them also. Mm-hmm. And so after I did that, I started to go into their services on Sunday, sometimes 3 and 4 on one Sunday. And for everyone that was having a means of service, I would send some of my tithes to them. And when I got to several churches, they still didn't have a means of me sending my tithes to them. And after the service, I called the pastor, and I asked them why had they not done it. And and the reason I'm bringing this up, because this might be an issue with other churches. They told me that the person that was handling the money for the church didn't want to set it up because of the bank issues. They have to go to the bank or put their account on the giver file. I'm just going to, you have to put your account number in there in order for people to give. So I challenged them. I said, you might have to take a look at who's handling your money.
Yeah.
Because some of those elders, and I'm not saying this as an insult, but some of the churches have some people that have been handling their money for 20 years. And they don't want anybody to handle that money other than themselves. Yeah. However, what I've found is that those churches that have submitted their accounts to Giveify or Cash App or whatever, it's better accounting, actually. And so you can always see who sent in money and where the money, and from that point on, you have to do your accounting.
Correct.
So what my point is, pastors and the stewards need to watch and see who's handling the money, because some churches, the people drop it off at certain people's houses and things, but they're handling the money.
That's right.
And they don't want people to see what's coming in the church. And I'll leave it at that. But you need to take a look at who's handling the money and why they don't want to set it, because it's an easy shift.
That's correct.
For them to just put their account number on Giveify, and you can see the picture of the church and you can give. They don't want other people to see what's coming in the church.
Yes.
I'd like to make a recommendation in the spirit of what the sister was talking about in terms of equipping one of her seniors to a kind of step-by-step intervention and support, to maybe post something like that on the 6th District website. I thought the lay organization had an excellent technology presentation from our tech pastor here. And if something like that was posted in terms of a step-by-step, even with text to give or various other solutions, pastors and members might feel more empowered and equipped to actually access the information. I know for games, when we looked at text to give, one of the concerns was someone having to put their social security number on the information. And they nobody wanted to do that. So we went with Givelify and Cash App. So there might be some misgivings about it. There might need to be some capacity building, step-by-step information on the 6th District website, not to endorse anyone in particular, but to at least give some information. Thank you.
Reverend Logan, what you do, you bring up again several challenges we face. Number one, most of the lay people in our congregations don't belong to the lay organization. That poses a major problem. And we do need to find a way that we're going to do some teaching, because this pandemic, again, is going to make it necessary. For example, Elder Smith, what he mentioned, the church I preached at on the phone the other Sunday, when it came to giving, they said you could give by Cash App, but the Cash App was that person's personal account. And you had to trust that that person would, in fact, make sure that the church got all the money. Because the church is never going to know whether or not it's accurate what's turned in. So that's why I'm having this discussion, the church in the midst of this pandemic. For example, somebody mentioned something to me the day we were talking about the fact that senior adult ministry is going to change, and somebody mentioned something that I know absolutely nothing about. What is a granny pad? Anybody ever heard of that? What's a granny pad? Dr. Moore? Now, I know Dr. Moore would know.
It's kind of like an iPad, but it's easier to use for senior citizens, Bishop.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I want you to get me one, because I'm gonna have to learn how to do this. Yes, sir, Sister Alfreda. Yes. Yes, Reverend Will Thomas did a wonderful job at y'all's meeting.
Okay. Here is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing so many ministers indicate that they need, their congregation needs this, that, and the other. If we have already formed a social action committee, why can't we form a technology committee so that pastors, laity, presiding elders, there's a group of individuals that they can turn to set up training in those individual churches. I work in the Atlanta Public Schools, and because they went into virtual, I have received, I can't even number the amount of calls from parents who are unable to help their child get online, that I, on the phone, walk them through the process. And you have to have the patience. When they say that they can't do it, they're afraid. And when you see that device in front of you, if the person on the other side of the phone cannot see what you're seeing and picture it and tell you where to go, you're not going to learn it. And I have found that taking the patience with these parents and walking them through the process. Do you see this? No. Then look over here. Yes. That helps them to get into the device. So my suggestion is that the 6th district create a group of experts that can walk. You can call this number, and they're going to walk you through your device and show you how to get into Zoom and show you how to do your cash apps. I think that would help us for tomorrow.
Let me ask this before I come. Do most of our seniors have a MacBook or a computer or iPad?
Most of them do not. But they have a phone. And on that phone, if you just don't have basic and can download an app, the Zoom app, then they are able to get onto the Zoom meetings.
Well, let me come back and ask this. Do most of our seniors have the phone that you're able to do all this on?
Yes and no. I would say it's a 50-50 because of the cost of adding that. But some of them, if they knew that's all they needed to do, may want to get that app to provide them the services that we're looking for. Because regardless of what you have, whether you have Cash App, whether you have the Zoom app, if you want them to give money electronically, they're going to have to download those apps to either a device or to a phone.
Yeah. See, again, because what I was hoping to get out of this today was to have a way to help our seniors do all that we're talking about. But so then the issue is, if they don't have the MacBook or iPad or a computer, or if they don't have an iPhone or Samsung, whatever it is that you need, then it's a matter of how we're going to do that. Because I'm really afraid a lot of us are going to lose contact with our seniors in this pandemic if we don't find a way to have them continue to be included in the life of the church.
Exactly.
And so we've got to find a way of getting it so that our seniors have the technological equipment they need to be able to do it. It would be nice if their children, maybe this coming Christmas, buy your grandmama iPhone or iPad or
They just
MacBook.
need an Android. They don't have to have the iPhone.
Okay, get out.
They just need an Android.
Now see, you messing me up again. I thought you were my friend.
I am.
Now, let me ask you this. What's an Android?
An Android is a regular cell phone. That's all.
Oh.
It's anything other than an iPhone is an Android. Look, I have 3 grandchildren. They have helped me through this. So technology says you either have an iPhone or you have an Android. You have an iPhone. I have an Android.
Android sounds like an alien creature from somewhere.
It costs less than that iPhone, trust me.
Now you tell me. Okay, Reverend somebody over here was, Reverend McMichael, and then Reverend Scott. Somebody show her how to turn that phone on. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Bishop, years ago, Elder Mathis invited me to do a technology workshop for one of her conferences, one of her quarterly conferences. And I brought with me a whole group of millennials because I knew that there were going to be a lot of seniors there. And we literally had to teach them how to set up an email address. We had to teach them how to navigate and do searches. We had to teach them, those who had flip phones. I didn't know people still had flip phones. And so, well, I just didn't know. And so we had to teach them how to transition. And so I believe that this is a Christian education issue. And I believe that I can partner with Reverend Dr. Haithco. I'm willing to partner with him and work with all the Christian education directors in the state. I know I'm stepping out of my lane, but this is an emergency because truly we don't have the time to spare in losing our seniors. And it's very easy for them to slip through the cracks for so many other issues. And so I believe that this is a Christian education issue. And yes, we partner with people in technology, but I think that we can operate much more quickly and efficiently if we partner together and put together a very simple, it's not complicated, a simple plan so that we're inclusive throughout the state and we can get it done very quickly.
Okay, because I'm going to, yes, sir, Dr. Haithco.
Elders District Conference. Because if you do it through each presiding elders district conference, you have the connection with the churches on a smaller scale and do the training at each presiding elder district conference.
Well, we're going to try to get all these ideas and come up with the best plan because really we're going to have a plan. I'm hoping we can have a plan developed by the time of our annual conferences because again, and again, I'm going to talk about this when I talk about the pastors in this pandemic. A lot of our folk have not seen folk in over 30 weeks. For example, the reason I was so happy to see y'all here at this meeting, we've not seen a lot of folk in months. And I'm really sensitive to seniors because for a lot of our seniors, besides their family, their life is their church. And so if they're not in, the fellowship of the church is critical to seniors. Because a lot of times those are the relationships outside the family, those are the only relationships they have. And so that's why I really wanted to emphasize on that. Most of our congregations are seniors. And if we lose our seniors, our churches are going to close. Reverend Scott? Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go right on
yes,
ahead.
Bishop, I agree with what Reverend Michael said, that we've already got a structure in our church. We're utilizing, like you mentioned, the class leaders. We've got district conferences. We have Christian Ed. And we got to understand that this is a warfare. And just like the military, you train for jungle warfare, desert warfare, urban warfare. And we're in a different kind of warfare. So we have to be tooled to do that. And as we learn how to use our people and develop the technology and deploy it, because the key is, like you mentioned, we got iPhones, Androids, we got rural areas, we got city areas, just like the school system, when they tried to push something out, one size does not fit all. And just like our generations, we have our seniors who have flip phones and different things. So when we look at it, we have to understand our congregation and have ways that they can connect. And at St. James, that's one thing we did find, that we do have them at different levels. And so that we do the conference call, we do the Facebook, because not everybody has a Facebook account, and we're looking at other means where that others can still look at it online, in addition to the giving. They have Givelify, Cash App, PayPal, by saying, where are you? Because I have to connect to you. And so we have to begin to be sensitive to where our people are and understand that what works in Savannah may not work in your area, but if we come together, we can all pool our information so we can send it out to everyone. So I applaud this discussion, and I pray that we be intentional and that we take from here that we actually have actions where we share what we know. And I think even at St. James, I said we have to invest in technology, not just for our seniors, but also for the generation to come, because that's where they're at. And if we stay back here, that we're losing them. So I agree, we have to look at the seniors as well as the up and coming and how we minister. And it takes us to doing things differently and at multiple levels. And so I think if we be intentional, not all churches have the resources, but we're a connectional church. So we should be able to share what we know with each other, because we are part of this one body. So And we also believe that by having that full-time Christian Ed director, as you mentioned, that helps to make that possible, just like our president in trying to have a national agenda, and the states don't know what to do because you haven't pushed it down. You got a good idea, but it did not push down, so the people are suffering. So I pray that we be intentional, that we're able to give people hope and not hurt.
All right, thank you, Reverend Scott. Oh, yeah. You ready to leave now? Okay. All right, have a safe journey. Brother Cord.
Thank you, Bishop. One thing that Dr. Wicker said really touched me. Dr. Wicker went the extra mile, and she went to a member's home. And sometimes we as leaders, we have to go the extra mile. Just as all of us respect multiple streams of income, we in this day and age have to respect multiple streams of communication, which means that we need to do everything we possibly can do to be able to communicate with our congregations. See, and I was talking to my pastor yesterday at the lunch table. At Antioch, we have streaming. You can stream live, you can watch on Facebook, you can go to website, whatever. But we also talked about for opening our prayer line up during worship service, so that those who may not be able to stream, and some, we do have some who are just kind of lazy and they're just not going to try to go there, but still having that communication available for them. In 2016, Bishop started, and maybe before that, Bishop started talking about everybody getting technologically savvy. And in 2016, as a millennial, if you didn't have a way for me to give money online, that meant you did not want my money. Okay? And so in this day and age, we're in 2020, we're in a pandemic. All of us have to do everything we possibly can do to make sure that we have available ways of communication, available ways to get text to give or whatever. In addition to that, one member had a flip phone, so she could not get on Zoom, okay? She had a landline, she could call in, but what she had was a smart television. She had a smart TV, and we were able to work with her with that smart TV and get Zoom on that TV, get Facebook Live on that TV, so that she could be a part of ministry with us. And so that's another avenue. And I hadn't heard anybody say anything about a smart TV, so I said I wanted to maybe put that out there. But there are a lot of go ahead, Bishop.
No, I'm just saying that you done pick. What the world is a smart TV?
Okay, Bishop, to your right, you on that guitar stand, that's a smart television, Bishop. I'm sure, Bishop, probably in your house you have maybe 3 or 4 smart TVs and you don't know it. Your smart television is connected to the internet. It's connected via Wi-Fi. You're able to put apps on that apps on. I don't know what this
Ms. Brown.
Yes, sir.
I have a smart TV in my office. How long you been my assistant? Yep. Let me ask you this: Who bought the television? And how come I didn't know I got a smart TV? In fact, how come I didn't even heard of a smart TV? I'm moving right along. Thank you, Court. I'm gonna deal with this smart TV thing.
Awesome.
I feel really hurt now. Great. All right, Dr. Ingram.
Good morning. I think one of the conversations, I think part of this is that we're doing a little, too late, right? I mean, there is a huge opportunity for us to know there are opportunities for us outside of this room, right, or outside of our churches. For example, Verizon Wireless, Verizon.com, has COVID-19 grants right now, right? And so as we talk about our seniors and the phones and the things that they need, we could, by presiding elder district or by larger congregations, especially in the rural areas, apply for grants that will give us money to purchase phones that can be sent to and given to our membership. There are any number of opportunities for us that we can utilize outside of our own tithes and offerings. And people right now companies right now technology companies have right now set aside money during COVID to ensure that there are opportunities for people, right? And so I think what we need to do is, trying to think of the best way.
Well, let me help you. You can't blame people for not doing what they. No, let me finish.
I'm not trying to blame anybody.
No. What I'm saying, no, I'm not dealing with blame. What I'm saying is if they don't know what to do. So now that we know that these grants and things are available, all of this information we need to give. For example, I'm glad that I know the Ingram has mentioned Verizon with all these grants and things. And again, that's why you also would need a full-time Christian education director, because those are the ones who help us to write those grants and those things. And what I'm saying is, now that you've said this, there are a couple of people in this district who are terrific grant writers. And so the information you've provided, we can at least begin to put something together to submit to try to get grants for this, because I'm happy to hear that, because I didn't know. In fact, I've learned more stuff today. I don't know nothing about no smart TVs. I don't know nothing about no granny pads. So y'all are helping me. But what I want you to do, that information, if you can get it to Ms. Brown, and that way we can follow through on. I'm particularly interested in this stuff on these grants.
Right, and so I think the other thing that we have to do, and it's partly what Pastor Scott said, is that we write out step by step what people need to do, right, in terms of the giving apps. If you write out step by step for people how to do it, and show them that these things have not, that they are not going to compromise their accounts, right, then it's easier for people to do. When I got to Augusta North District, I wrote out for each pastor who did not already have online giving how to sign up for online giving. I didn't just tell them to do it, I showed them how to do it. And every last one of them have an opportunity for you to have online giving, so that when the pandemic hit, they were ready. They also all got Facebook accounts, because we wrote out how to, and several of them already had them, right? But one of the things is we have to understand that you can't have a church account if you don't have a personal account. And then the other thing is, what we need is showing how to do virtual streaming, right? So if you're at Pastor Bright's church, you're not just going to get Pastor Bright on the screen or the choir on the screen. You're going to get some movement, and you're going to get some activity. You're going to get some transitions that enable people to keep their attention, right? And so I think we're very well served when we show people how to do their Facebook live streams and send out so if we create for the district, and it may not be the Christian education, may be a technology group, right? That if we create for the district a plan, right, that says, this is how you do your virtual streaming. Several people are now pre-recording before they, so that they are presenting a recorded service, right? And so if you tell them and show them and give them the names of the equipment to purchase, people want their church to be the very best church. Seniors and young people alike want to feel like they've got the absolute best church. And so if you outline, if we create an outline that says, this is how you do these things, this is how you do the transitions, here's the music to play, give them the copyright information so that they can do all those things, and create these tools for people that we can send out and share that are easily used then we can do what is most necessary in this time, and that is meet the needs of the people in those squares, right? Because even freeconferencecall.com has an opportunity for you to look online, right? So as people learn more, they can do more. And so our goal is that people will feel some kind of worship and some kind of fellowship and some kind of kinship and feel like they're a part of the family. And if we create tools and opportunities, then we can just send that out. And so I'd be happy to give somebody to help on that committee.
You will. You will.
Bishop,
I've every confidence you will.
might I speak to something of that? We've had, our church is in the role. As of March the 16th, we did not have the upload speed to do a live service. So we did an inquiry to AT&T, and there was no way that we could have gotten this service without the help of the Lord. But because we called and asked for a needs analysis from AT&T, they came out and offered us a service that was not yet available in our area. So we didn't talk to the intermediary person, we talked to the lead needs analysis person for technology in our area. We are what, 2 miles from a school? 2 miles from a school that has a T1 line, and we had a download speed of 1.7. Will had told us we needed a download speed of about 2.9. It wasn't available. They brought us out an apparatus that cost us $64 less than what we were paying per month. That now we are optimum. We could run a television show from our church. So though, along with the basic devices, you also have to be concerned about your upload and download speeds. Because once you start to add the smart television, the listening devices, all that takes away from your speed. So sitting in my house in Millersville, which the technology is terrible, we did a speed test. The speed test declared that we were not able to do a Zoom call from my house. They came out within 2 days, changed everything around for free, and gave us what we needed to do this. A lot of companies, Spectrum, Charter, Verizon, and all those people are doing this upgrade for free right now. So the first thing that persons need to do is to ask their service operator, their service provider, if they're willing to do that. And they will tell you what you need as far as equipment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Gaddis.
Bishop, at my church, we have seniors as well. And one of the things that came to my attention was that our seniors didn't understand 2 things. One is that you don't always understand the difference between going on the website and downloading the application, the app. And so sometimes the congregant is trying to get on the website, but because they don't have the app, they're afraid to get on the website because they don't understand the difference between the app and the website. Another thing was that they didn't have enough data. And so because they didn't have the app, because they didn't have enough data, they kept saying they couldn't get on the website. I mean, they couldn't get on Zoom. And so we had to send someone out or either recommend that they go to their service provider so that they could upgrade their data to be able to get on some of these platforms. If you have a phone that doesn't have enough data, then you cannot download some of the apps, such as Zoom, but you can get on Zoom without downloading the app. You can go through the website.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, Reverend Young.
Yes, good morning, everyone. At Antioch East and Conyers, we have the similar situation with the population of seniors, but our seniors are a little bit more tech savvy than even the pastor understood. And so they've been able to communicate, jump on Zoom and all of those other nuances. But since Pentecost Sunday, one of the phenomenons of Antioch's campus is we have a beautiful 15-acre campus. And so since Pentecost Sunday, we've been able to have parking lot worship. We've constructed a stage out in the front. Individuals drive up in their cars to enjoy worship. Not only that, we've installed a radio antenna. So those that get a little toasty outside or it gets a little too hot, we've been able to tune into a radio station when they're on the campus of the church, and they're able to actually hear the service. Just this past Sunday, the rain was playing tricks on us because we've been blessed since Pentecost not to have any Sundays of rain. But after Pentecost, after this past Sunday, that was our first Sunday with rain. And so I was like, the folks are not going to come. It's raining off and on. They're going to stay home because they know that I put the contingency plan in for us to go back inside of the service, inside of the sanctuary. But I still was going to keep the live stream up, and I was going to keep the radio station going. People, because they want to get out of the house, they still showed up in the parking lot. They couldn't see me, but yet and still, they showed up in the parking lot just to be in the presence of worship, just to be on the sanctuary, just to be on the church grounds. And it blew my mind because we've seen at least 90% of our senior congregation, I've seen them at least once come and try out the parking lot. And then those that I've called, and some of y'all might think this is crazy, but some of our senior population, you can tell them about technology. You can tell them about jumping on Zoom. You can tell them about doing all of this other stuff. Some of them just said, Pastor, can you just drop a CD off at my house? And I had to go back, pull out the CD burner, and we now have to start making CDs and DVDs again, because sometimes you have to reach back, like Cord said, we have to use every means of communication in order to reach our congregation. And so, Bishop, those are some things that we're doing in order to reach everybody.
All right. Now, all that we've heard today, we got one more here. We're putting together so we can try to minister to this situation that we have to deal with our senior sister right here.
Yes, sir. Bishop, we just went back to church the first Sunday in October, and I was surprised to see how many seniors actually came out to church. They actually want to see their pastor and actually be in the service. And so we had a number of them in the service, which was surprising to me. But what is also happening is some of our class leaders are going around to the homes of the members and showing them how to do the Zoom. And they're Zooming in, or they were using conference call, and we're still doing that. But for some of the members that know how to do the Zoom, they're visiting the older members, showing them how to do the Zoom, logging in on that. And a lot of these churches are just a little reluctant about trying to move into a technology age. But I believe that, like you said, if we can get that training, that will really help them. Because my mom still has a flip phone. So, you know, when we're talking about the flip phones, she still has one. But we need to try to be able to reach everybody. So, you know, I suggest we still keep our conference call lines, but we move into other areas as well.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, sir, Reverend Logan.
Bishop, I just had one other comment, and I guess it's kind of in light, to kind of push the conversation just a little bit further in terms of evangelism to those who actually tune into the broadcast. As much as we want to maintain with what we have, we also want to pay equal attention to the capacity to take in and, I guess, retain new listeners, seekers, and those who are expressing an interest. Oftentimes the question is, how do you know, or how can you count them as members? How do you codify the membership? How do you commodify the membership? So new members and new outreach is also, I think, a part of the calculus of what we talk about in terms of these up-to-date solutions for ministry. Thank you.
All right. Who was this? Yes, Sister Stewart.
To go along with Sister Beeling was saying, and also Reverend Luke, the technology has been there, the fast speeds and all, but if you don't call and ask for it, to tell them you need an upgrade, they're not coming out and doing it. So therefore, it has put us behind where our other colored sisters and brothers are, because they already have the technology. But if you don't know, and if you don't ask, you will still have that same antiquated speed and everything. You have to ask them. So they're not doing you a favor because they're doing it free. They were supposed to have done it, but you didn't ask for it. That's what we found out in Camilla. We didn't ask for it, so they didn't come out and do it. Until we asked for it, then they came, ran around, changed it out, no problem. But you have to ask them. Whereas in Donaldson bills, they don't have to ask. They came and they changed all the speeds, put all the new equipment in. We have to ask. And they will come and do it, but you have to ask. If you don't, you will stay behind.
Sister Stewart wants us to know you got to ask. No, and that's a very good point. You have to ask, Elder Bass.
Also, Bishop, most of the time we get little texts from our company saying it's time to upgrade. The first thing comes to our mind is, I got to spend some money.
That's it.
So we don't pay attention to it, or we delete it or whatever. But most of it is free. All we have to do is just say, come install it, or go on our phone and ask for an upgrade, and this will eliminate a whole lot of problems. Anytime I get an upgrade on my phone or any kind of device that I have, most of the time, 90% of the time, I go ahead on an upgrade because it helps you in the long run. Thank you.
All right. Now let me say a word quickly. I mentioned earlier that this pandemic has buried some things that don't need to be resurrected. Let me just say a word about that. One of the things this pandemic has buried that doesn't need to be resurrected are long services. No, and I say that the reality is, in this pandemic, whether it's online or even if it's in person, the hour and a half and 2 hour service is obsolete. And so there's some adjustments that we have to make, and that's what I refer to when I say again, the now normal. For example, today, folk not interested in you standing up there. We're going to have the doxology, the call to worship, the organ prelude. You're going to do the whole Decalogue. And you're going to have 10, 20 minutes of announcements. That's gone. What you're going to do today, you can come in, you can have opening hymn, prayer, scripture, a selection, the sermon, the offering, and the benediction. And your service today, if you don't get it in within an hour, hour and 15 minutes, not only is the long service going to be buried, you're going to be buried with it. So the long service is gone. Second thing that's buried and don't need to be resurrected is a choir concert and the morning service. You don't need 3 or 4 selections during the service. Third thing is the Sunday bulletin. In this pandemic, you have to deal with as little paper as you can. So if you have a screen, put it up on the screen. But to pass out bulletins, that's really precarious, and in this pandemic, a health hazard. So between the bulletin, the choir concert, the long service, the processional, the recessional, is buried. Don't, you know, I like high church, but you're not going to have all that in this pandemic. Just not going to happen. And to be frank with you, I've discovered you can have a much more impactful moving service when you go ahead and do what you came to do. You came to worship. You say, so is worship is not about us. Worship is about God. So go ahead and praise God in your opening hymn. And you ain't got to wait till the middle of the service to get your shout on. You can get the shout on with the opening hymn. All right? And when you pray, 2 things. 1, the Lord not hard of hearing. And 2, tell him what you want. You know, you don't have to try to be eloquent. Eternal and sovereign God, thou who art above all of us, in whom we live and move and have. No, the Lord already know all that. Just go on, pray. All right? And the sermon, you don't have to preach the whole Bible. Take a text, preach the text. You know you have a problem with the sermon when you start in Genesis and end up in Revelation. All right? So just take a text and preach that text. See? So anyhow, all right, that's that. I'm not going to get to all I wanted to get to in this, but let me say this about reopening our churches. Ms. Brown, everything said? All right. Mrs. Brown, y'all know this has been an interesting day already. All right. All right. Let me say this. What was I getting ready to talk? Reopening churches. Now, brothers and sisters, again, this pandemic is something. It's something. It's affecting everything. It's affecting everything. You know, one of the things which is interesting, we had one-day conferences this year in the 6th District. And most of y'all didn't know it, but all over the A.M.E. church, they were looking at us and talking about us. I suspect this weekend. Brother Brown, what's in that box? Are them Krispy Kreme donuts? Brother Brown, that's why she the lay person of the year. Okay. I'm gonna eat one donut and I'm gonna let y'all jockey for the rest. All right. Let me lose my train of thought. Oh yeah, here it is. They were looking at us because they took the position that we should not be having live services. We're in the midst of this pandemic. And I tell people all the time that this is being streamed, right? Okay, I can't say that then. No telling who looking and listening. But anyhow, anyway, we shouldn't be having it. And it was funny because we were in the, what was the first conference we had? Georgia? We were in the Georgia conference. And during the Georgia conference, while service was going on, they had texts going around the connection. Okay, they sit in distant space, and that's good. Then the choir sang. The choir shouldn't be singing down on the floor. They should be separated up in the, I mean, they just had a comment on everything. And I think they were waiting, I think the church was waiting for me to respond. So I didn't say nothing. So when we got to the Augusta conference, they were on again. And I didn't say nothing. So one of the bishops called me and said, Jack, you know, they talking about you around the church. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. That's a good thing. That means we must be doing something. They said, yeah, that's what they're talking about, y'all having them live services. And my position is this. I think right now today, most churches are open. United Methodist, Lutheran, Episcopalian, they're open. Most of the churches that are closed are black churches. And what it is, we are waiting for the perfect environment to come back to church. Brothers and sisters, there's not going to be a perfect environment. What you're going to have to do is follow the protocols. You're going to have to put in place the procedures. Take your temperature. Everybody had the temperature taken this morning, raise your hand. Because if you didn't get your temperature taken, I want you to go out of here. All right. Get your temperature taken. Have your mask. Distance spacing. No hugging. Bishop Gidry, good morning, Bishop Gidry. I'm sure she's looking at me this morning. And I'm thankful Bishop Gidry looking out for me. So I want y'all to look out for me. And I hugged somebody yesterday, and she called me. You stop that hugging. Said, and she was correct. But I said, well, Bishop, give me the reason I hugged because I had the mask on, and I had on a suit with long sleeves, so therefore there was no skin contact. But anyway, no hugging, no kissing. The now normal is that's gone. As much as I regret it, it's gone. Matter of fact, one more thing I meant to say, that the pandemic is buried, don't need to be resurrected. There are a lot of chickens who are happy about this pandemic. Yeah. Many a chicken has sacrificed his life for the cause of the gospel. But now after church, you know, all of these churches got these fellowship halls. I don't know what you're going to have in them because you're not going to be eating at these churches no more. It's going to be a couple of years before you have chicken and A.M.E. punch and all that. It's going to be a while. So, but anyway, on the opening of churches, you have to take the precautions. But let me say this, my concern is, and one of the reasons why this meeting was very important to me to be able to see as many people as I've seen, I think January and February, I'm thinking everything is going to shut down again. The Center for Disease Control says, and Dr. Fauci says, that this is going to be the most difficult winter in our lifetimes. And the reason it's going to be such a difficult winter, and really it's beginning in December, but you're going to be in the midst of both the flu and the coronavirus at the same time. And they're afraid some people will have the flu and don't know whether it's the coronavirus, may have the coronavirus, think it's the flu. There's some people who will get both the flu and the coronavirus. They are expecting around the first of the year, January, February, that you're going to be having at least 3,000 deaths a day. Yes. 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 Yes, and Reverend Hathco, you need to contact the office because I'm going to send something out relative to January and February and our churches, and all that information we do need to have, all right? For example, I'm concerned now about whether or not we will be able to have Founders Day in February because of the pandemic. It's my hope. Now this year, our first conference begins in March. It's my hope that we will still be able to have the 2-day annual conferences. But January and February, I am persuaded that we will probably, and I'm hoping there's a new president who will have enough sense to close down the country January and February, rather than telling their body, you ought to open everything up, and we turn the corner. But that's where we are. So in terms of opening churches, let me say this. I think beginning in the spring, I don't think you can keep your churches closed. After the winter season, I don't think you can keep your churches closed in April and May. Because one of the things some churches have experienced already is some of their members are going to other churches already. And so my thing is people are going to work and they're taking whatever precaution to go to work. They wear their mask to work. They keep their social distancing at work. They wash their hands at work. Those are things we're going to have to do. And in fact, January and February, they're even to the point now of saying, even if you're in the house with your family, you may need to wear a mask in your house. This is just how precarious this environment is going to be. I suspect there will be a vaccine sometime beginning of next year, but the problem is it's not going to be distributed to 330 million Americans before the middle of next year. You see? And so that's all the situation that we are facing. So I'll be communicating with the district again, on all of these things. And let me say this about the role of the pastor in the midst of the pandemic. One of the things I'm concerned about, and I'm very concerned, because we're in a pandemic does not mean that you don't have pastoral responsibilities. In fact, your pastoral responsibilities are greater now than they were before this pandemic. You see, one of the pastors said to me last week, he said, "Bishop, I ain't never had a bishop where I get so much stuff from." He says, "Every time I turn around, I'm getting something from you." How many of y'all heard me preach last Sunday at the bishop's service? The subject was, did you get the memo? I got that idea from that pastor. Talking about every time I turn around, I'm getting a memo from you. Yeah, my brothers and sisters, our members need to get more memos from the pastor. In this situation where we've not gathered for over 30-some weeks, communication is critically important. For example, I'm sending out another memo next week throughout the district, and I think pastors need to do it as well, is to have the pastors encourage your congregants to go get a flu shot. It's critically important. In this environment, you need to get a flu shot. Pastor, care enough for your congregants to say to them, go get a flu shot. You see, there are a lot of things we may not be gathering, but you still need to communicate with your congregation. Class leaders need to be communicating with members on their class. While we may not be gathering physically, people ought to still feel this relationship with their church and with their pastor. So I want to plead with you to communicate with them, and again, especially your seniors. Every now and then, pick up the phone and just call and just say, "You are on my mind. I've not been able to see you now in 2 or 3 months. I just want to know how." You have no idea what that will do for that congregant. The pastor cared enough to pick up the phone to check on me. It's the little things that make such a big difference in the relationship between a pastor and they're congregating. So I want to encourage you to do that.
Excuse me, Bishop.
Yes.
This morning in the New York Times, it talked about we've had 8 million people who have entered into poverty since May. And one of those, the largest group of those are women and children. And we know the largest group of those are black women and black children. In Atlanta, I'm the PTA president of my grandson's school. And in Atlanta, they are now talking about sending kids back to school in several different counties who are not necessarily in school yet are now talking about how they will send their kids back to school in the next couple of weeks. One of the things I think is imperative for us as pastors and as church leaders and people who have churches that can be open and have already been sanitized is to provide safe space. I know several churches in my district have provided safe space for children, free Wi-Fi for people to come in, and so children can come in, their parents can come in, have a safe space for them to be. Even though they put a moratorium on evictions, several people have still been evicted. There are any number of persons who are just sitting in their cars, working. Their children are trying to get their schoolwork done and that kind of thing. And I think one of the benefits for us that our buildings are empty is to be able to open up for people who are in desperate need, that we show them what it is to be part of the kingdom of God, right? And so I think it would be beneficial for us to talk about, Pastor Luke talked about going and having the people come and check your bandwidth and making sure you have enough, but also if we could open up some buildings that are safe and that do not smell like mold and mildew, for families to be able to come in and rest and be during the course of the day. As we go through this pandemic and you think about the numbers of people who have lost jobs, they said job loss is an all-time high. People have, those who were protected at the beginning of the pandemic are now being laid off because companies are no longer able to accommodate them. And so I hope that we can have some thoughtful solutions as to how we can not just help, but encourage and support and provide some resources and opportunities for people during this time across the state.
Several times this week and prior to that, I've communicated different things. For example, I believe in yesterday's State of the 6th District address, I commented several things that our local churches need to be doing in this situation. And let me say this, I think in the Augusta conference, it was Bethel, and the Georgia conference, I think it was St. Philip, and the Atlanta conference, I'm trying to think which, I think it might have been St. Philip in the Atlanta conference, St. Paul in the Macon conference. But anyway, in every conference in the 6th District, we've had trucks with thousands of meals. And what these churches are supposed to do is to be in touch with other pastors so that you can also provide food for people in your communities. Yesterday I received word that there's going to be another shipment, but I want to thank Reverend Hall in Augusta, I think Reverend Hart at First A.M.E. Athens, St. Paul, St. Philip in Decatur, St. Philip in Savannah, and I'm trying to remember who it was in the Georgia conference. It might have been Albany, I'm not sure. But anyway, these churches, these big, Who was it? Greater St. Okay. And so they will be coming again with this food, and I hope that they will be distributed to different pastors around the conference so that we can, food is, people are desperate for food in this environment. The other thing I've suggested is that since a lot of these kids, when you get out of school, parents in a situation about going to work or staying home with the children because a lot of the schools are not open. A lot of the schools are virtual. Parents don't have anybody to watch their children. Some of them having to stay home from work to watch. So those are things that the churches can provide some assistance with if we open up our churches. Make sure they've been sanitized, but open up our churches. We have adults who can help parents in these situations. So again, I will keep sending out these memos, communications, but there are a lot of things we can do, especially the feeding program, because we don't want anybody going hungry. All right? Who somebody called my? Yes, sir, brother.
The Lofton Circuit, along with the Optimist Club, we gave away 400 boxes last week in the Rennes and Jefferson County area.
Excellent. 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 So, pastors, when these trucks are beginning to come, please contact the other pastors so they can share in the food distribution. Yes, sir, my brother.
We provided 175 boxes in Statesboro.
All right.
At Greater Bethel A.M.E.
Excellent.
Reverend Deborah Lanier Scott.
All right. Yes, sir, my brother.
Bishop Pastor Rouse, Yoni Circuit, I just want to thank you for your compassion when you reduced the connection budget for the first two quarters, and then on the 25% on 25% of others. Because giving has been down, we are maintaining because we had a good reserve. But giving has been down because several of people in my congregation did lose their job and was out of work. So I just want to stand and thank you for your compassion to reduce the budget at that particular time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bishop.
Yes.
Over here on the other side.
Yes.
Last Saturday at ATOC A.M.E., we gave over, through Reverend Pharrell Malone, we gave away 1,152 boxes in the Dawson, Cuthbert, Brownwood area.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Reverend Dr. Buxton.
Bishop, I will hope that we are hearing this a little differently. We are clear that people do need sustenance, but as an educator, it is really important for our empty buildings to be open in a manner throughout the week so that, especially for those of us who are in counties where children are not able to go to school, but they are working with teachers every day, I would strongly encourage, if you're in a county where the children are not in school, but they are home with their parents all day, their parents have to go to work, they cannot, and some of their parents are working from home as well. I strongly encourage you, if you have a Wi-Fi opportunity, to open the church Monday through Friday so that children have the opportunity to connect with their teachers. It is awesome that we provide food. I get that. People need it. But we must remember that we have young people who need an education. And when we can open up, not only does that help the child, but think about it. All of our churches, most of our churches, I'll say that, we are missing a certain age group, a certain demographic. And so for children and parents who are younger, who have not connected with a church, for them to be able to come to your church and call you pastor and say that something is going on in their community in walking distance to their church, it makes a tremendous difference. So you just need a person who is willing to be there, even if it's 4 or 5 children, to be there, to open up the church so that they are able to come and use Wi-Fi that you're paying for anyway, if you're paying for it, and let them come in, clean as you need to, and then help them to, you can use some of those food boxes to feed them during the week. But please, please consider opening up your church so that they are able to have such a space.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bucks. And one of the things we've asked every church to do, we've asked every church to do, is to go to the school in your neighborhood, meet with the principal, find out what it is that you can do to be of assistance to that school. I call it Adopt a School program. And one of the things that school may ask you to do is, in fact, if you're able to open up your church facility, because, again, some of these schools are virtual. Some are open maybe 2 days a week, virtual 3 days a week. Kids have no place to go. Parents have jobs they need to go to. So please hear Dr. Buxton, but please go to the school, ask what it is this church can do to assist. And I'm saying, brother, we got to get ready for this service. Yes, sir, Dr. Bass. Yes, sir, Reverend Alexander.
Reverend Buxton is a pastor at Allen Temple, as you all know. She is the person who's there from 7:30 on Monday through 7:30 on Friday with 4 students to go to different schools. And as a former educator, she also makes sure that they are focused on their computers and encourages them. When one of them made 100 on the test sheet, she said they gave her a silent applause. When another one was struggling, she went over to her and she encouraged her. She helped her to be focused. And I was just impressed. The point that I'm trying to make is we're still trying to get our ship ready to accommodate our people, because you know we did have a mold problem. We got that gone. Now we're trying to get the rest of the building fit to accommodate such ministry. God be the glory.
Okay, we're going to get the ship ready. Now, brothers and sisters, let me say this, couple things. One, we were hoping to have Dr. Warnock with us here personally today. He's still preaching at noon, but you know he is a candidate for the United States Senate. Candidate for the United States Senate. The election is, today is 19 days away. So we do not want to jeopardize in any way his candidacy. And with the way this virus has been spiking and increasing, he's going to preach to us virtually today. We want him to be safe, all right? I don't want to run now. I don't want none of us to get sick, but the last thing I want around the state is Dr. Warnock got sick, wasn't able to campaign or do nothing because he came to be with Bishop Jackson and the A.M.Es. All right? Of course, I know none of us going to give him nothing. Now, the second thing is, this is the A.M.E. church. And you know, it ain't nothing like the black church, no way. I'm originally from Delaware. Joe Biden is a personal friend of mine. And he was going to speak to us today live, virtual. He's still going to greet us. In fact, he and Senator Kamala Harris have sent a greeting us. But what happened is my colleagues felt that he should do more than speak to the 6th District, that he needed to speak to the entire A.M.E. church. So what we're trying to arrange is he's going to speak to the Connectional Church. They're trying to arrange for the first Sunday in November, which is November the 1st. and hoping we can have at least 10,000 AMEs or more. So today he's going to bring, he and Senator Harris are both going to bring us video greetings, but he's going to speak live to the Connectional Church on the first Sunday in November. So I'm trying to stay in good graces, you know, with everybody. So I went along with that. So that's where we are. All right, let's get ready for the noonday service. I'm going to eat my Krispy Kreme, and we're going to get ready for the noonday service. All right, who's the worship leader and who's on the program? All right. Reverend Mathis, I'm going to have me a Krispy Kreme donut. And you fuss with Rosemary Street. She brought them.